Hello, my green-thumbed friends. I'm going to be brutally honest with you today. Most gardening videos promise you a winter wonderland of blooming containers, but then you try it and nothing but brown dead sticks by January. So let's get real. Winter container gardening isn't about having a summer garden in December. It's about having containers that look alive and interesting when everything else looks dead. Some of these will actually bloom, yes, but others will give you gorgeous foliage, beautiful structure, or berries that brighten those gray winter days. Today I'm sharing 20 perennials that will survive winter in containers and give you something worth looking at. No false promises, no disappointments, just plants that actually work. Let's be honest about winter container gardening. First up, let's talk about the plants that really bloom in winter. Not maybe if you're lucky bloomers, not plants that bloom in winter only if you live in Southern California. I mean actual flowers when there's snow on the ground in regular climates. These are the rock stars, the overachievers, the plants that make your neighbors stop and ask, wait, is that actually blooming right now? Number 1. Hellebores. Hellebores, also called Christmas rose or Lenten rose depending on the variety, are the queen of winter containers. If I could only choose one plant from this entire list, it would probably be hellebores. These beauties bloom late winter through early spring, and sometimes, I kid you not, right through the snow. I've seen them pushing up through 2 inches of snow with their flowers intact. We're talking flowers that last for months, not days or weeks. These aren't delicate little blooms that shrivel up at the first cold snap. They're tough, they're gorgeous, and they just keep going. They come in absolutely stunning colors: pristine white, soft cream, pretty pinks, deep burgundy, rich plum, and even this incredible lime green that looks almost otherworldly. Some varieties have spotted or picoty edges, which means the petals have a different color around the rim. They're just spectacular. Now you'll need at least a 12-inch pot, preferably larger because hellebores have substantial root systems. They don't like being cramped. Give them room to spread out, and they'll reward you for years. Here's the reality check, and this is important. Most hellebores bloom February through April, not December. The Christmas in Christmas rose is a bit misleading. They're not usually blooming at Christmas unless you're in a very mild climate. But when they do bloom, starting in late winter, they're absolutely stunning and worth every penny. And yes, they're pricey. You might pay $20 to $40 for a good-sized plant. But here's the thing. One plant will last 20 plus years. I have hellebores that are over 15 years old, still going strong, getting bigger every year. That's a good investment in my book. Break it down per year and it's nothing. They grow in zones 4 through 9 and prefer shade to part shade. In hotter climates, they definitely need that shade. In cooler areas, they can handle a bit more sun, especially in winter. Number 2, winter pansies and violas. If you only try one thing from this entire list, make it winter pansies or violas. I'm serious. These are the most reliable winter color, hands down, no contest. They're also affordable, which means if you're just starting with winter containers, you can try these without breaking the bank. Now let me explain how they work because this is important. They're not constantly blooming through hard freezes. That would be impossible. What they do is pause blooming during hard freezes, kind of going into survival mode. But as soon as it warms up, even a little bit, and I mean even just a few degrees above freezing, they bounce right back with fresh flowers. It's remarkable. Their best blooms happen when temperatures are between 40 and 60 degrees Fahrenheit. So those mild winter days, those early spring days, even those sunny winter afternoons, that's when they really shine. And the color range is incredible. We're talking pure white, sunny yellow, deep purple, vibrant orange, soft pink, rich burgundy, and everything in between. You can find pansies and violas in practically any color except true blue, though some purples come close. Plant them in fall, October or November depending on your climate, and they'll bloom through spring. In zones 6 through 9, they'll actually come back as perennials, though most people treat them as annuals. In colder zones like 4 and 5, just treat them as winter annuals, which means you plant them knowing they'll last one season. And that's fine. They're affordable enough to replant each year. The difference between pansies and violas? Pansies have larger flowers, usually with those distinctive faces, the dark markings that look like little faces. Violas have smaller flowers but produce way more of them, and they tend to be a bit tougher in cold weather. I like to mix both in the same container. Number 3, winter jasmine. Now this one surprises people every single time. Winter jasmine produces bright, cheerful yellow flowers in January and February. And here's the really cool part, before the leaves even appear. So you've got these bare stems, and suddenly they're covered in yellow flowers. How cool is that? The cascading stems are perfect for spilling over container edges. It's got this informal, almost wild look that I absolutely love. The stems are green even in winter, so even when it's not blooming, it adds color and structure to your containers. Fair warning, unlike summer jasmine that smells amazing, winter jasmine has no fragrance. Zero. Zip. People always ask me about this, expecting that classic jasmine scent, and I have to disappoint them. But honestly, those cheerful yellow flowers popping through snow more than make up for the lack of scent. It's like having little rays of sunshine in your container. It can reach 3 to 4 feet, so this is better for larger containers. It's also quite vigorous, which means it grows enthusiastically once established. You might need to trim it back occasionally, but that's easy to do. Winter jasmine grows in zones 6 through 10. If you're in zone 5, you might be able to get away with it in a very protected spot, but 6 is safer. Give it full sun to part shade. More sun means more flowers. Number 4, winter heather. Winter heather, also called spring heath, is a low-growing evergreen that produces tiny bell-shaped flowers in pink, red, or white from late winter into spring. These little flowers are delicate and charming, almost like something from a fairy garden. This little powerhouse stays green year-round, that deep, rich evergreen color that looks so good against snow. It only grows about 6 to 8 inches tall, making it absolutely perfect for container edges or as a ground cover layer in larger pots. It grows in zones 5 through 7 and needs full sun. This is key. It won't perform well in shade. Give it sun and well-draining soil, and it's happy as can be. The flowers appear in late winter, usually February or March, depending on your climate, and they last for weeks. Even when it's not blooming, that evergreen foliage earns its keep in your containers. It's low maintenance, rarely needs pruning, and just does its thing year after year. One tip, heather likes slightly acidic soil, so if you're mixing it with other plants, make sure they're compatible. It pairs beautifully with other acid-loving plants like dwarf conifers. Number 5, primrose. Technically, primrose blooms in late winter to early spring. We're talking March here, not December. But I'm including it on this list because it's so reliable, so cheerful, and it bridges that gap between winter and spring so beautifully. When everything else is still looking pretty rough, primroses pop up with these cheerful flowers in every color imaginable. And I do mean every color. Pink, red, yellow, white, blue, purple, orange, you name it. There's a primrose in that color. Many varieties are bicolored or have contrasting eyes. Primroses absolutely love cool weather. Heat is their enemy, but cold? They don't mind at all. They're perfect paired with spring bulbs in containers because they're blooming right when those early bulbs like crocus and snowdrops are coming up. Primrose grows in zones 4 through 8. In zone 8, it needs afternoon shade because the heat gets to be too much. In cooler zones, it can handle more sun, though it still prefers part shade. Just set your expectations right. This is early spring color, not December blooms. But it's worth the wait, I promise you. And they're incredibly affordable at garden centers in early spring. Number 6, winter daphne. If you're lucky enough to live in zones 7 through 9, winter daphne is your plant. If you're not in those zones, I'm sorry, but this one isn't for you. It's just not cold hardy enough for zone 6 and below. But if you are in a mild climate, oh my goodness, do not miss out on this plant. Winter daphne is an evergreen shrub that produces intensely fragrant pink or white flowers from January through March. And when I say intensely fragrant, I mean you can smell it from 10 feet away. It's that powerful, sweet fragrance that just stops you in your tracks. The flowers appear in clusters at the ends of the branches, and they're followed by the glossy evergreen leaves that stay beautiful year-round. Even when it's not blooming, this is an attractive plant. Plant it near your door, near your walkway, somewhere you'll pass frequently so you can enjoy that incredible scent every time you come and go. Trust me on this one. It prefers part shade and well-draining soil. It doesn't like wet feet, so make sure your container has excellent drainage. This one's only for mild climate folks, but if that's you, don't pass it up. Number 7. Hardy cyclamen. I'm not talking about the supermarket cyclamen you see at grocery stores around the holidays, those tender house plants that usually die within a few weeks. Hardy cyclamen, specifically cyclamen cum, are completely different plants. These are outdoor tough guys that laugh at cold weather. They're small but mighty, with heart-shaped leaves that have these beautiful silver patterns, almost marbled or mottled. The leaves alone are worth growing these for. Then you get the flowers in pink, red, or white from January through March, and they're just charming. They're small, delicate-looking flowers that face upward or outward. Here's what's really cool about hardy cyclamen. They go dormant in summer and wake up for winter. So when everything else is shutting down for the season, cyclamen is just getting started. It's like having a plant that's on a totally different schedule than everything else in your garden. These grow in zones 5 through 9 and prefer part shade. They don't like intense sun. Plant them in the fall, September or October, and they'll bloom their first winter. Over time, they'll naturalize and even self-seed if they're happy. They're perfect for smaller containers or as an underplanting in larger pots. Mix them with hellebores or coral bells for a fantastic shade container. Now let's move on to plants that don't bloom in winter, but give you beautiful foliage and structure. And sometimes, friends, that's exactly what you need. Not everything has to have flowers to be beautiful. Sometimes you need that solid, reliable presence, that evergreen foliage or colorful leaves that stay interesting even when there are no blooms. Number 8, coral bells. Let's be completely honest here. Coral bells, also called heuchera, have minimal winter flowers. They bloom in summer with these tiny flowers on tall stems. But that's not why we're growing them. The foliage. Oh my goodness, the foliage is where coral bells shine. These leaves come in the most incredible colors. Deep purple that's almost black, burgundy red, bright lime green, peachy orange, silver with dark veins, caramel brown. There are literally hundreds of varieties with different leaf colors and patterns. They're evergreen in most zones, though they might be semi-evergreen in Zone 4, where they can look a bit rough by late winter. But even then, they bounce back beautifully in spring. Coral bells are your thriller plant. That's container gardening speak for the centerpiece, the tall focal point that draws your eye. In winter containers, they provide that pop of color that makes everything else look better. They grow in zones 4 through 9 and handle part shade to full sun. In hotter climates, they definitely appreciate afternoon shade. In cooler climates, they can take more sun, and actually, more sun often intensifies their leaf colors. One variety I particularly love for winter containers is Palace Purple, which has these deep purple leaves that look almost burgundy in bright light. Caramel is another favorite with peachy orange leaves. Obsidian is nearly black, just gorgeous. Number 9, ornamental kale and cabbage. Here's something that blows people's minds about ornamental kale and cabbage. They actually get more colorful as temperatures drop. While everything else is fading and going dormant, these guys are reaching their peak beauty. How perfect is that? These ruffled beauties come in combinations of purple, pink, white, and green. The outer leaves might be green or purple, and then the centers are bright white or hot pink or creamy yellow. They look like giant roses made of ruffled leaves. Their peak beauty is November through February, exactly when you need it most. When your yard looks brown and dead and everything is dormant, these are just hitting their stride, getting more and more colorful. Technically, they're biennials, which means they have a 2-year life cycle, but most people treat them as annuals because they look best in their first fall and winter. In spring, they'll send up flower stalks, and at that point, they're done looking good for containers. They grow in zones 2 through 11, which means they work practically anywhere. They need full sun, at least 6 hours a day, to develop their best colors. And here's the best part: zero maintenance, maximum impact. You literally just plant them and forget about them. They're also ridiculously affordable. You can often find them for $5 or $6 at garden centers in fall. Number 10, Bergenia. Bergenia, sometimes called pig squeak because the leaves squeak when you rub them together. Try it, it's fun. Has these large, glossy leaves that are beautiful year-round. But the real magic happens in cold weather when those leaves turn burgundy or bronze or deep purple red. It's that cold weather color change that makes Bergenia so valuable for winter containers. In summer, the leaves are plain green, nice enough, but nothing special. But let the temperatures drop, and suddenly you've got this rich burgundy foliage that looks incredible. You'll get small spring flowers as a bonus, usually pink or white clusters of bell-shaped flowers. But we're growing this for the winter foliage, not the flowers. It's extremely cold hardy, growing in zones 3 through 9. That's impressive hardiness for a plant with such tropical-looking leaves. And it loves part shade to full shade, making it perfect for those shady winter containers where not much else will grow. Bergenia is also tough as nails. Deer don't bother it. It handles neglect. It doesn't need much water in winter, just a solid, reliable plant that looks good and asks for almost nothing in return. Number 11, Dusty Miller. Silvery white foliage is winter container gold, and that's exactly what Dusty Miller gives you. Those soft, fuzzy silver leaves provide the most beautiful contrast to darker plants, and they make other colors pop like nothing else. Think about it. Dark purple coral bells next to silver Dusty Miller, deep green conifers with silver accents, red ornamental kale with silver edging. It makes everything look more intentional, more designed, more professional. In zones 8 through 10, Dusty Miller is a true perennial. It'll come back year after year. In colder zones, just treat it as an annual, which means you'll replant each year. But it's so affordable that this isn't a big deal. Give it full sun, at least 6 hours a day. More sun means more silvery white color. In shade, it tends to turn more green, which isn't nearly as attractive. There are several varieties with different leaf shapes. Some have fine, feathery leaves. Others have broader, more rounded leaves. I like to mix different textures for more interest. I promise you, every good winter container needs some silver. It's like the little black dress of container gardening. It goes with everything and makes everything look better. Number 12, wintergreen. Wintergreen gives you that classic Christmas look with dark green, glossy leaves and bright red berries that last all winter. It's like having natural holiday decorations that don't need replacing. This is a low-growing ground cover that only reaches about 6 inches tall. It spreads slowly to form a mat, which makes it perfect for covering the soil in larger containers or spilling over the edges of smaller ones. Those berries will stay on the plant until spring, giving you months and months of color. They're not just winter interest, they're fall, winter, and early spring interest. That's a lot of value from one little plant. It grows in zones 3 through 8 and prefers part shade. Too much sun can burn the leaves, especially in winter when the sun reflects off snow. It likes slightly acidic soil and consistent moisture, though it's quite drought tolerant once established. Fun fact, wintergreen leaves smell like, you guessed it, wintergreen when you crush them. It's that classic mint camphor smell that's used in candies and gum. And yes, this is the plant that wintergreen flavoring originally came from. Number 13, trailing vinca. Trailing vinca, also called periwinkle or vinca minor, is evergreen with glossy, deep green leaves that cascade beautifully over container edges. It's the perfect spiller plant. That's container gardening terminology for plants that spill or trail over the sides. In winter, those glossy leaves stay green and healthy looking, providing structure and interest when everything else is dormant or looking rough. It's that reliable presence that makes your containers look intentional rather than accidental. As a bonus, you'll get blue-purple flowers in early spring, usually April or May, depending on your climate. The flowers are pretty, but honestly, we're using this plant for its trailing evergreen foliage that provides structure when everything else is dormant. It grows in zones 4 through 9 and handles shade to part sun beautifully. In fact, it prefers shade. Too much sun can stress it out, especially in hot summer months. One warning, vinca can be aggressive in the ground. It spreads readily and can take over garden beds. But in containers, It's perfectly behaved because it can't escape. This is actually a great plant for containers because you get all the benefits without the invasiveness. There are variegated varieties with white or yellow edges on the leaves, which can add even more interest to your winter containers. Number 14, Japanese forest grass. Japanese forest grass, or Hakonekloa, has these graceful arching blades in gold or green that add the most beautiful movement to containers. Even the slightest breeze makes them dance and sway. Now, it's not evergreen. Let's be clear about that. It turns bronze tan in winter as it goes dormant. But here's the thing. Even in its dormant color, it stays attractive. It doesn't turn brown and gross like many grasses. It maintains this elegant form and that beautiful bronze color that looks intentional. That semi-evergreen structure with elegant form adds so much to winter containers. It provides height without being rigid. It adds movement without being messy. And that bronze tan color is actually quite beautiful against snow or in combination with evergreen plants. It grows in zones 5 through 9 and prefers part shade. In full sun, especially in hot climates, it can scorch. But give it morning sun and afternoon shade, and it's perfectly happy. Aureola is the most popular variety, with chartreuse gold leaves that have thin green stripes. All gold is solid gold. Nicholas is green. All of them turn that attractive bronze tan in winter. These are your big impact, low-maintenance plants that provide serious structure. When everything else has died back or gone dormant, these are the plants that hold your containers together and make them look intentional rather than sad. Number 15, dwarf conifers. Dwarf conifers are the absolute backbone of winter containers. They stay green, or blue, or gold, all winter long, providing that essential height and structure that makes your containers look designed rather than thrown together. You've got lots of options here, and that's part of what makes conifers so great. Dwarf Alberta spruce has that classic pyramid Christmas tree shape in bright green. Dwarf Hinoki cypress has that beautiful layered fan-like foliage. Blue spruce varieties have those incredible blue-gray needles that look stunning against snow. There are also golden varieties, weeping varieties, globe-shaped varieties, truly something for everyone in every style. Zones vary by species, which is why it's so important to check the tag when you buy. Some are hardy to zone 3, others are only hardy to zone 6, and they need full sun to part shade, with most preferring at least 6 hours of sun. Here's the key that I mentioned earlier. Pick one that's rated for your zone -2. If you're in zone 6, you need a conifer that's hardy to at least zone 4. Remember that container rule. Plants in containers are more exposed to cold than plants in the ground, so they need to be hardier. Dwarf conifers can be pricey, $30 to $60 for a good size one. But like hellebores, they last for decades. I have dwarf conifers in containers that are over 10 years old, still looking perfect. One more tip, make sure you're buying true dwarf varieties, not just young plants of full-size conifers. A dwarf Alberta spruce stays 6 to 8 feet tall. A regular Alberta spruce gets 40 feet tall. Big difference. Check the mature size on the tag. Okay, friends, here's where most people fail at winter containers. Pay close attention to these tips because they make all the difference. The 2-zone rule. This is the most important thing you'll learn today. Container plants need to be hardy 2 zones colder than your area. Why? Because roots in pots are way more exposed to cold than roots in the ground. For example, if you're in zone 6, you need plants that are hardy to zone 4. This is the #1 reason winter containers fail. People don't follow this rule, and their plants don't make it. Don't be that person. You need frost-proof materials only. That means fiberglass, resin, thick plastic, or lead. Avoid terracotta and thin ceramic because they will crack in winter. Drainage holes are non-negotiable. Water needs somewhere to go. And bigger is better. Aim for at least 12 inches for better insulation. Look, I'm not going to lie. Winter container gardening takes some learning. You'll have some failures. I certainly have. But here's what I know. Having something alive and interesting outside your window in January makes a huge difference on those gray days. Start small. Pick 3 to 5 plants from this list that work in your zone. Give them proper soil in the right container. Water them. That's honestly it. Winter isn't about perfection. It's about persistence. These 20 perennials, they're persistent, and they won't die on you if you follow the rules. Which ones are you going to try? Let me know in the comments. And if you're new to Senior Green Thumbs, subscribe for more honest gardening advice. No fluff, no false promises. Now get out there and show winter who's boss. Happy gardening, friends!